Happy day, friends, and welcome to those of you who are new here. I am so very grateful to you for being here, for showing up, for subscribing to the channel, for listening, for tuning in. I'm also very grateful to you for doing the work, for healing, for expanding, for growing, for transcending, and for coming back home to yourself. Because as we are here doing that together, doing it in our personal lives, we will have a direct impact on the world around us. The world is changing because of the work that we are doing in our personal lives, because of the changing that we are doing within ourselves. So thank you for being here. So this is the heart-to-heart conversation for September. So this is September's heart-to-heart. And in August, we talked about standing in the gap for ourselves, okay? We talked about identifying how we need to stand in the gap for ourselves, how we need to do a better job at standing in the gap for ourselves in every aspect of our lives, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, health-wise, how do we need to stand in the gap for ourselves? So as we're moving into September, it will do you some good to reflect back over the month of August, or over the previous month, whenever you are seeing this, and ask yourself, in what ways did I stand in the gap for myself? In what ways did I stand in the gap for myself? And then also ask yourself, in what ways did I unintentionally or intentionally stand in the gap for other people? So definitely take some time to journal, reflect, contemplate, and just look at how you showed up for yourself in the month of August. How did you do in standing in the gap for yourself? What did that change for you? What change did that create for you? What limitations did that break you away from standing in the gap for yourself? Right? Ask questions like those to help you reflect, to help you look back and see how it was that you stood in the gap for yourself, okay? And then commit to yourself, make a commitment to yourself to continue doing that as you move forward, right? To see standing in the gap for yourself as a practice, right? So that's what we talked about in the month of August. And that continues. That standing in the gap for yourself continues. And so this month, it all ties in, right? Standing in the gap ties into the conversation that we're going to be having today. So the heart-to-heart conversation, the topic for the heart-to-heart conversation for the month of September is God wants you to forget the pain and remember love. God wants you to forget the pain and remember love. Okay? God wants you to forget the pain and remember love. Okay, so just feel that statement for a moment, right? Let's go ahead and close our eyes. And you can have your hands in prayer position or on your heart space, and we'll just take some time to connect with our breath so that we can center ourselves and ground ourselves into this present moment. And go ahead and exhale your breath all the way out. And take a deep breath in. And sigh it out. Deep breath in. And sigh it out. Deep breath in. And sigh it out. And just notice, witness, and observe. And when you're ready, open your eyes. awareness. Giving yourself permission to receive what it is that Spirit has for you to receive in this moment. Okay, so the conversation is God wants you to forget the pain and remember love. Okay, so the first thing that needs to be noted is that we've been in this error, right? We've been in an era where the conversation has been centered around transmuting pain, right? That's what the conversation has been around. But for those of you who are here listening to these words, for those of you who are present for this conversation, God wants you to hear that it's much easier to transmute love than it is to transmute pain. Okay, it's much easier to transmute love than it is to transmute pain. And as I'm hearing that, Spirit is like, let's backpedal for a second. It's much more productive to transmute love than it is to transmute pain. Okay? It's much more productive to transmute love than it is to transmute pain. Okay? So again, we've been in an era where the conversation has been centered around transmuting pain. But as we mature and become more aware of who we are, right, on an eternal level, as we become more aware of who we are, as we become more aware of the essence of who we are, pain ceases to have a foundation in our lives. Pain ceases to have a foundation in our lives, right? It almost becomes obsolete. Pain almost becomes obsolete, right? And that doesn't mean that we don't experience pain. It doesn't mean that we don't go through painful experiences. What it means is that because we are aware of the essence of who we are, because we are aware that this physical experience is temporary and the essence of who we are is eternal, because we have that awareness, because we've done the work to come into that awareness, and we're allowing that awareness to be the foundation for our lives, to be the foundation that we stand on, breathe on, right? Because we are allowing that foundation or that awareness to be the foundation that we stand on, pain no longer defines our experience, right? So again, it doesn't mean that we don't experience pain, because we will, but it means that we no longer allow pain to define our experience. We no longer allow pain to define our story, to define our narrative. Because we know, we have the understanding that that narrative that the painful experience is wrapped up in, we understand that that narrative is temporary. We understand that that narrative is not an eternal narrative, right? And so we no longer allow pain to define our experience. We no longer allow pain to dictate how we interact with the world around us. And not even just that, we no longer allow pain, the painful narratives, the painful stories, to dictate how we interact with ourselves. Because a lot of times when we're holding on to that pain, when we're holding on to that narrative, what happens is that painful narrative, that pain that we hold on to, that pain that we are constantly aware of, it separates us from ourselves. It has separated us. It has caused us, holding on to it, has caused us to live in separation from the essence of who we are. So when we are standing on that foundation, when we are aware, when we have the awareness of the essence of who we are, and we stand, let that awareness be the foundation of who we are, that means we're coming back home to ourselves. That means we're closing the gap. That means we're closing the gap. So then, and it ties into the heart-to-heart conversation for August, right? Because in August we were talking about standing in the gap. So in September, as we are forgetting the pain and remembering the love, right? As we're forgetting the pain and remembering love, we're closing the gap. It's like, hello, light bulb just went off. There's really no reason moving forward to stand in the gap for ourselves, because we're closing the gap. Because we're beginning to see that the gap is almost non-existent. Right? The gap is non-existent. The gap is a figment of our imagination. The gap, the painful experiences created the gaps. The painful experiences and our inability in the past to let go of them is what created the gap, or the gaps that we've experienced in our lives. Those painful experiences have created the gaps. And so as we begin to stand on the awareness that we have, as we begin to allow that awareness to consistently guide us and lead us, the gap begins to close. The gap begins to close. And then there's no separation between myself and the essence of who I am. We're one. There is no me and the essence. There is the essence. And we are one. We are the same, right? So God wants you to forget the pain and remember love, okay? And why is this important, right? Why is it important for us to forget the pain and remember love? Because we have been tasked with creating heaven on earth, right? We are the eternal essence here on this earthly plane, and we're not just sent here to have a human experience, okay? Another thing that we hear all the time is we are spirits having a human experience. We are, but let us not forget what we are and what we always will be. And if what we are, if the essence of who we are, if we are allowing the awareness of who we are to be the foundation, then that means we become aware of why we're here. We are not just spirits having a human experience. We are spirits here to do a work, right? And the work that we are here to do is to create heaven on earth. And not even just to create heaven on earth, but to close the gap so that we can experience, but we're here to close the gap so that we can open ourselves up to experiencing heaven on earth in real time. Okay? That's why we're here to close the gap. So yes, you are a spirit here having a human experience, but you are a spirit who is here to guide the human experience, who is here to transform the human experience. You're not just here to have a human experience. You're here to transform the way the human experience is being experienced, right? By yourself and by the world around you. Which is why I always say, when you transform that experience for yourself, you are indirectly and directly transforming that experience for the world around you. Okay? So that's why forgetting the pain and remembering love is important. That's why making the choice to no longer speak in terms of transmuting the pain, but instead transmuting love, instead using just focusing on turning love, right? Alchemizing love into gold, right? A book that I like to read at least once a year, and I try to read it in like December. Yeah, I try to start it like in December and finish it in January, is The Alchemist. Okay? And that's a great book. It's a fiction, right, book, but it's a spiritual journey. It's a spiritual story. And in that, Santiago, he's not transmuting pain. He's not creating his experience by transmuting pain. He experiences painful moments in the story, but he's allowing love to be the material that he's using to alchemize love. Like, he's alchemizing love, right? In The Alchemist, it talks about how an alchemist takes certain metals and they alchemize it and turn it into gold. Okay, his metal is love. His material is love. And he's alchemizing the love, and that's what helps create his experience. He's not transmuting, he's not taking the pain and transmuting the pain. He's taking love and he's transmuting it. So just read it. Read it. But so that's part of the reason why, okay, we're being tasked with forgetting the pain and remembering love, right? Because we are here to close the gap so that we can transform the human experience. All right. So many of us have been tasked with raising children who only know love. Okay. So our children may experience pain in their lives, but because we are here, because we've been tasked to be the person who is changing the narrative for our generation, for our family, right? Because we've been tasked with that assignment, our children, as we're raising them, as we're teaching them, they will only know love. They will experience pain, but pain will not dictate their narrative. Pain will not dictate their story, because you have the tools to be able to teach them how to use love to transcend the painful experiences, right? They'll be able to utilize love to transmute the painful experiences in ways that we didn't know how to transmute the painful experiences in the past, right? Before we started healing and growing and learning and maturing and evolving, right? These children that we're raising, they'll be much more confident, more aware, and more centered within themselves because of you, because of your ability to say, you know what, I'm going to let go of this pain and I'm going to allow love to teach me, to guide me, to direct me, to be the foundation that I stand on. This expansive, eternal, unconditional love. This love that I am, that flows from within me, that is me, right? You're teaching your children how to do that. There will be a lot less confusion in a lot of ways Um, because there will be a lot less confusion. Kids, as kids become, as they grow and as they mature and as they become adults, they'll be less confused because you are teaching them who it is that they are. You're reminding them of their true essence. You're reminding them that, yes, you are here having this experience as a human and you get to create this experience in the way that you want to, right? But at the end of the day, remember first and foremost who you are. And when we say, in our world, when we say first and foremost, remember who you are, a lot of times what we're telling people is to remember this character, to remember this personality, right? We're not telling people to remember the essence of who we are. Usually what we mean is, again, remember this personality, remember this character. But you have been tasked with teaching your children, reminding yourself to remember the essence of who you are, to remember that inner authority, to remember that voice that lives within you that wants to guide this, that is guiding this experience for you, whether you're aware of it or not, right? So in September, throughout the month of September, you really want to be opening yourself up to seeing the painful experiences and identifying the ways that you've allowed them to dictate your experience, identifying the way that you've allowed them to define who you are, right? What actions, what steps, what decisions have you made because of the painful experiences, right? How have you reacted to those painful experiences? How have you closed yourself off because of those painful experiences? Right? You want to be answering questions like that. You want to be contemplating on thoughts like that. How did I allow the painful experiences to shut me down? How did I allow the painful experiences to close me off from the world? In what ways, what gaps, right? What gaps were created because of these painful experiences? What gaps did I create because of these painful experiences? And how can I begin to not just stand in the gap for myself, but how can I begin to close these gaps all together? Right? So, forgetting the pain and remembering love. Remembering that love is greater than the pain. And as you remember love and you forget the pain, notice how that changes your interaction with yourself. Notice how that changes your interactions with other people. Notice how that changes your interaction with the world. Notice how that begins to open you up, right? Notice what it is that you begin to experience and call in, because now the gap is closed. Is closing or is closed, right? So you really want to be paying attention to the details. You really want to be paying attention to those moments that appear to be small, right? They may appear to be small moments, small experiences, but to your spirit is saying, I'm sending this small moment into your experience so that you can open up, so that you can learn something, so that you can become more aware of what it is that we need you to become aware of. Okay, so this is going to be a beautiful month for you. Again, also on the channel, we've been discussing spiritual initiation, so this is a part of that. This forgetting the pain and remembering love is a part of this spiritual initiation that we're being called, that we're being guided through right now. All right, so meditate on how all of it ties in to that process of initiation that we're going through at this time. Okay. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I appreciate the support so very much. I am very grateful and appreciative to you for showing up, for listening, for doing the work, for healing, for changing, for growing, for becoming more of who you are, and for allowing the awareness of who you are to be the foundation that you stand on. Okay, so thank you for being someone who is actively closing the gap so that you can transform this human experience. All right, talk to y'all later.